We all know the old joke about cars losing value as soon as you drive them off the lot, which is true because a new car will always have a premium simply for being new. Apart from a house or apartment, a car is probably the most expensive asset you will ever purchase, and so you'd hope that it would retain a decent amount of its value over the years. But as with all of these things, it's a question of scale, and EVs are on a completely different scale to regular combustion cars. EV depreciation is so bad for multiple reasons. Firstly, newer, cheaper models seem to appear on the market every week, meaning that the resale value of older cars is pushed down, and huge discounts on new models has the same effect. Secondly, the technology moves on just as quickly, so cars that were made last year seem dated compared to the newer models. And thirdly, these things are essentially disposable, like an iPhone. The huge traction battery, which often makes up half the value of the car, is just a chemical reaction, which starts degrading the moment it is manufactured, and will invariably fail at some point. It's just a question of how long it takes. Add all this together and you get some truly frightening residual values, with no sign of things improving anytime soon. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer, now Sydney-based YouTuber. Please make sure you've clicked that subscribe button down below and enabled all notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you'd like to support this channel, why not buy me a coffee? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. Stay tuned to the end of this video because we have a second story about how the EV bubble in the US has well and truly burst, with survey results showing that interest in electric cars hasn't just slowed, it's going backwards. But first, EV depreciation is so awful that traditional methods of financing vehicle purchase, such as leasing, are becoming unsustainable. The lease payments are normally kept lower because a strong residual value of the car at the end of the lease means the finance company can keep those lease payments more affordable. But where EVs are concerned, the residual values are so terrible, the finance companies are having to jack up the monthly installments to avoid making a huge loss when they sell the car on, and this is making the payments unaffordable. In the UK, the residual value of EVs after 2 years is now less than 50% of the purchase price, as the Telegraph reports. Electric cars halve in value after just 2 years. Heavy discounting and growing range of cheaper models blamed for driving depreciation. Electric vehicles, EVs, are losing more than half their value in the first 2 years of ownership, amid a wave of heavy discounting by car makers. A typical EV now retains only 49% of its value after 24 months, a sharp decline from 83% as recently as 2022, according to Cox Automotive. For a new car bought for £40,000, this would translate to a value of just £19,600 after 2 years. The depreciation figure compares with an average of 70% for diesel and petrol cars. Cox Automotive said the faster rate of depreciation among nearly new EVs was being driven by the discount wars being fought by manufacturers, which have been aggressively cutting prices to help them meet net zero sales targets. Under the so-called zero-emission vehicle (ZEV) rules, which are mandated by the government, 28% of new car sales are meant to be electric this year, with the target set to rise gradually until it reaches 80% in 2030. The falling value of EVs is also being accelerated by the growing range of cheaper models available on the market. The average price of a second-hand EV fell from £39,849 to £24,908 between April 2022 and April 2025, according to Auto Trader. Philip Nothard of Cox Automotive Europe said used car prices reached a peak in 2022 as the pandemic squeezed global supplies of new vehicles. But he added the current performance of nearly new EVs in the used market is still much lower than we would anticipate for vehicles in this age profile. The heavy discounts offered on new vehicles mean that consumers can pick up a brand new model for the same price as a nearly new model. This gives consumers very little incentive to consider them, which is a real blow to a market that needs all the incentives it can get its hands on. And when it comes to fleets and leasing, as I said, the picture is similarly grim. Fleet operators such as car rental companies, which accounted for 2/3 of all new car purchases last year, tend to buy new vehicles and sell them on after 2 to 3 years. The growing drop in resale values means they risk recovering far less of their initial investment than anticipated. In 2023, the EV leasing firm Onto collapsed into administration as it was forced to write down the value of its 7,000-strong fleet by £21 million in a single year. The British Vehicle Rental and Leasing Association, BVRLA, last year warned that many fleet operators were having to swallow large losses when reselling EVs because of unsustainable depreciation. It said rising depreciation costs could force leasing companies to raise prices for consumers in order to better shield lenders from losses. And the only solution proposed is, you guessed it, more government handouts and freebies to create false demand in the market. All of these are just band-aid fixes. Eventually the handouts and freebies have to stop, and at that point the market will crash anyway, as Germany has found out to its cost. And in the US, a new survey shows that the public are even less inclined towards EVs than they were last year, showing that consumer sentiment is turning back towards reliable, convenient combustion cars. Now the shine has worn off the EV market. Survey: US consumers prefer gas-powered cars more now than they did a year ago. A new survey by KPMG suggests that tariffs are playing a major role in consumers' car buying decisions. In these uncertain times, US consumers are embracing the familiar gas-guzzling cars, trucks and SUVs. That's according to findings from the auto section of KPMG's annual American Perspective survey. Based on responses from 2,500 adults across the country, the survey suggested an increasing preference for standard gas-powered vehicles. Asked about their preference between internal combustion engine vehicles, hybrids and EVs with the same price tags, 42% picked gas-powered cars, up from 38% last year. At the same time, interest in EVs fell from 21% in 2024 to 16% in 2025. Similar to last year, about 1/3 of respondents selected hybrids as their preference. Lenny LaRocca, US auto sector leader for KPMG, told Tech Brew that responses suggest that the hype around EVs is cooling down. "I think reality is setting in at this point," he said. "Consumers are feeling more comfortable with gas engine vehicles. The EV charging infrastructure is still a big concern. Range is still a big concern." And with the current 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, combustion cars look a much more attractive option for many. Meanwhile, the KPMG survey found that tariffs are having a significant effect on consumers' auto purchase decisions. Of those who were in the market for a car, 43% said they will delay their purchase of a new or used vehicle until they know the impact of new tariffs on vehicle prices. Another 17% plan to buy sooner in an attempt to preempt expected price increases. Consumers flocked to car dealer lots in March and April, which analysts attributed to buyers trying to get ahead of anticipated price hikes from tariffs. "I would anticipate that May is probably going to be much lower than March and April," LaRocca said. Unfortunately, if you combine the initially higher purchase prices of an EV with the much higher depreciation, you've got a recipe for disaster. There's nothing worse than having years of repayments left on your car loan when you know it's already worth less than your outstanding loan balance, i.e. you're in negative equity. Don't ask me how I know that. Unfortunately, the answer to this is the same as my answer to everything. Don't buy an EV, new or used, if you don't want to lose a shed load of money. A good used petrol or diesel car a few years old will have been through the steepest of the depreciation curve and will have had most of the niggles ironed out. You can let somebody else take the new car depreciation hit and then ride the gentle slope over your ownership. Maintain it well and keep it as long as you can, and not only will the planet thank you for it, your wallet will too. Thanks very much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any tips or stories, go there. If you'd like to watch another video, go there. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, go there and please subscribe to the channel.